guys, follow me on Instagram to never ever miss any of my crazy updates. And that is how the boot opens. Well, actually Annabelle has opened it from inside. Meanwhile, the boot is kind of useless because the spare wheel has been placed on top here, and there is this, I believe, toolkit. It is not a lunchbox, डब्बा नहीं है lunch के लिए, but toolkit है, first aid kit यहाँ पर है, and there's a light placement here. But the boot is not usable at all, unfortunately, because yes, spare wheel takes all the space. Mercedes, we need to stop doing this because there's absolutely no space to keep my stuff. Where do I keep it? Okay, stop overreacting. But you know what? There's this cool hook here. Yeah, it's a hook. You know, you can actually do roller skating, have skates, hang on here, let the AMG accelerate, and then you can go really fast. I'm just kidding, don't try that at home. Anyways, you can't try that at home. That has something to be tried out on the road. And there's a hook here as well. No, actually that is to recline the seat there, so you can recline that seat too. I don't know why it's not following, but it does have a 40-20-40 split there. Okay, let's get moving. Let's close the boot. Light placement here, pretty light this thing. We're all set to go, which means turning off the air conditioning off, into drive mode, hazard light off, traction control off. Yeah, ESP sport handling mode. Actually, let's get into the dynamic mode first, which is Sport Plus. Now we press the traction control button. Yeah, ESP sport, keep it pressed, and now traction control is completely off. Okay, start stop system is also off. That's a good thing. Left foot on the brake, right foot on the accelerator, revving the motor. The motor revs till 2,500 RPM, and off we go. Oh my goodness, the performance is super duper punchy. The acceleration is mind-numbing. This, my friends, is powered by a 3-liter bi-turbo, means 2 turbos. V6 motor, has plenty of pep on offer because it now produces 385 horsepower, an increase of 23 horsepower over its predecessor, which by the way was sold in sedan form in India. Now we get the Coupe or the Coupe, however you want to call it. As you saw, performance is mind-numbing, absolutely mind-numbing. Right now doing around 2000 RPM. As soon as I get on the gas, just see the response. Absolutely massive thrust from the motor, pulls really sharp and fast. Meanwhile, torque output is 520 Newton meters between 2,500 to 5,000 RPM. Drivability is really great. In fact, drivability is so good that you won't feel any lag whatsoever because there's good amount of punch lower down. But you know what? It's really the mid-range which surprises you with the massive grunt on offer. The mid-range is really very strong. It's a proper shove. 0 to 100 km per hour takes just 4.7 seconds. Top speed is a limited 250 km per hour. Torque output is 520 Newton meters between 2,500 to 5,000 RPM. And of course, drivability is great somehow. Okay, you can't feel the lag lower down. The mid-range is ballistic, but it's really the top end which shines here, because obviously it's an AMG, it has to have a top end, but I think it's really the mid-range which shines. It has a good amount of grunt in the top end as well. So there's thrust throughout this motor, which makes it such a joy to drive this vehicle. In fact, it pulls through the double ton in no time at all. Such is the level of performance on offer from this AMG motor. Alright, I mean, it is so breathtaking. Like already told you earlier, there are 5 drive modes on offer. Alright, we are right now in Sport Plus. Here, downshifting using the steering mounted paddles, and there's that immediate sense of urgency somehow, and it just wants to break away from the car. That is the level of performance of the motor. The motor is like, okay, bye car, I'm leaving. The car somehow manages to tag along, because that is how the car performs. It's absolutely sensational. I love this motor. It is so usable as well. It's not absolutely ballistic loud like the C63. However, it makes a good roar in the top end. In fact, you want to hear the roar? Here we go. It's a nice smooth roar. Red line comes in at around 6,500 RPM. And you know what? You can manually take control of things. It will not upshift unless and until you decide to do so. Because if you get into the individual mode where I've actually programmed it to not upshift and keep it in manual mode, there the gear shift will not happen. It will just show you a big sign saying upshift. That's it. It will not upshift unless and until you do so. Now these drive modes alter a lot of parameters of this vehicle, right from the engine, the gearbox, the air conditioning, the steering wheel, and even the start-stop system. It also alters the traction control system, which goes to sport. Now we've turned it off, so that's ahead of sport. That's like even less intrusive. But because there's so much grip on offer, you can never ever feel any loss of traction. Now this being a 4-wheel drive car, it's a 4MATIC by the way, it still has wider tires at the rear, which is usually done with rear-wheel drive cars. You know why? Because 69% of the power is channeled to the rear wheels in this 4-wheel drive system. Yeah, you heard a bit of the wheel slip, but there's just so much grip on offer. You just can never ever feel a loss of traction. That's the level of performance on offer. That's the level of grip on offer. And the gearbox, which is a 9-speed unit, does a decent job. Yes, it's very fast with shifts, but lower down it kind of, gets confused. When you're driving in the city, it can get confused a bit. So, this isn't the best gearbox, although it is an AMG speed shift unit. It does a great job when you're going hard on the throttle, but at lower speeds, at less throttle, you would expect a slight more punch. However, there's a Ferrari right in front of me. You can see one horse is proper, the other horse is facing the other way. That's like real murder for a Ferrari fan. It usually upshifts around 6,000 RPM. Redline can go to 6,500 RPM. In fact, right now, let me just get into the individual setting. Now we are in individual and ESP is in sport, which means I have to keep it pressed to turn off ESP. And there, ESP has been turned off. Here we go, downshifting. Coming to third gear, opening the throttle. There, it will not upshift unless and until I do so. It's telling me to upshift to fourth. Well, that is some manual control of things. The pedals work really well on this car, and overall I would say that the motor sounds really nice. It's very refined at lower speeds, makes a nice raspy note at higher speeds, and it is just so engaging to hear this engine because it performs. It absolutely performs. It doesn't scare you silly like the C63S, but yet it has ample amount of grunt for most driving duties. Fuel economy is rated at 11.9 kilometers per liter. In the real world, you can expect around 4 to 5 kilometers per liter when you're hard onto the gas. And the best thing about this gearbox is that it will not upshift or downshift unless and until you do so. So right now I'm just going to upshift to the top gear, which happens to be the 9th gear. Now we are in 9th gear. Now I'm hard onto the gas. I am like banging the throttle. It will not downshift. It will just keep it in 9th gear. That's complete manual control of things. That's something I love about gearboxes, that manual means manual. Just leave it to me. I will decide what I want to do with it. Meanwhile, this car weighs around 1690 kgs. It is on the heavier side because of the 4-wheel drive system, but high-speed stability is great. It's fab. Body roll is very well contained and it feels light on its feet. In fact, the steering offers great response as well. It's a quick steering. It's quite quick. Yep, it is quick, but then there's a slight problem. It doesn't have the last moment of absolute accuracy which you would expect from a car which runs an AMG badge on multiple places on its body. It could have been slightly more accurate. Meanwhile, the car is very fun around the corners. It doesn't have a tendency to understeer or oversteer. That is the level of balance from this AMG vehicle. And of course, it's a Mercedes, so it's comfortable, it's luxurious, but it's not really comfortable and luxurious because the luxury parameters are there, but comfort is a bit compromised because ride quality is on the stiffer side. It is absolutely stiff. It is so stiff. Believe you me, the car is so stiff that it rattles your bones. Yeah, it rattles your... Okay. You heard that? Yeah, there are some rattles, and the ride quality is super duper stiff, and you can feel almost everything inside the cabin. In fact, you can also feel the road sometimes if you go over a speed breaker because ground clearance is atrocious at 112 mm only. Yeah, that's right, only 112 mm. You have to take the car at an angle through speed breakers, otherwise it's going to touch. I've already touched this car over speed breakers in spite of taking a lot of caution, at least 575 times already. At least 500. क्या हुआ? रो क्यों रही हो? You can't take the performance of the car, can you? Anyway, so like I was saying that I've touched this car on speed breaker around 575 times already because no matter how much angle I take, it just wants to scrape through. It will not go comfortably. But the brakes, am I accelerating and talking about brakes? I should brake and talk about brakes now. The brakes are very sure-footed, offer great stopping power. And you know what? I didn't do this test. So here's the test, the wiper test. A lot of spray on the windscreen, and obviously the wipers work brilliantly well, dual blade wipers as well on this car. There's a proper kick in the pants feel because that is the level of performance from this AMG motor. It just feels so alive, so feelsome, so responsive, and trust me, there is no difference between the C43 and the C63 in terms of practicality because both of them are as bad or as good. I mean, obviously this is a coupe and that is a sedan, so obviously the sedan is more practical. Exhaust note is so intoxicating, sounds really nice. In fact, mid-range is put a big smile on my face each and every time. There's an old Mercedes there. It happens to be the 300D. My goodness, it is such a masterpiece still. Yeah, Mercedes made some timeless cars back in the day. Looks so splendid. Anyways, onto the gas. And it's gone in 60 seconds. Actually, it's gone in 4.7 seconds. The time it takes to go from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour. downshifts in an instant. So should you buy a Mercedes C43? Good question. Well, the thing is, it costs rupees 94 lakhs and it doesn't have any real competition, but similar price pay you also get the BMW M2, and M2 is absolutely ballistic. But the real competition for this car, I think, is of course the Ford Mustang. A bigger engine, more soul, and obviously a bigger car as well. But this is more about comfort, luxury in one package. I won't say the car is really comfortable. It's comfortable to sit in, but it's not comfortable in terms of the ride. I think the Mustang does ride better than this car somehow. Obviously, the Mustang has now got a fab rear suspension. But as I look at this car, I should tell you that it is a proper midpoint between, of course, the C300D and the C63, which, by the way, for me, is the best car ever. What a track, what a car, what a fab machine. Although not really practical because of two doors, but it looks like $1 million now thanks to the coupe design of this vehicle. Guys and girls, this is my review of the Mercedes AMG C43 Coupe. Brilliant car, brilliant design, and absolute bonkers of a motor. So much of a soul in this vehicle. Do you prefer German engineering precision or American madness? Let me know in the comment section below. Bye bye. And my cap needs to be with me.
It's my cap.
It's my cap. Give my cap. It's a Mercedes cap.
So